Hey, so my name's Robert Gutman, and I'm turboing my 2001 GMC 1500 with the 6-liter and 4L80. It's a two-wheel drive, and I'm going to document my adventure to help other people out. So we got a few issues to address. I already had some Gibson headers on here, and I put BR7 ES plugs in here. Don't do it. Get they have a different size, but I have 317 heads, and they actually didn't fit in there. So I used a crescent wrench to tighten those. Don't do what I did. So this is my crossover. Goes up to the turbo manifold. The biggest issue you're going to run into is you're not going to be able to get cylinder 6's spark plug in with the manifold on if you're using On3's kit. So make sure you put your plugs in on the passenger side beforehand so you don't run into the same issue I did. So the first thing I had to do was completely remove the passenger side battery bracket and coolant reservoir and get that all out of here. So it's really hard to see, but you'll also get with the kit these two little 90s that come off your water pump for your heater reservoir. They're kind of a pain in the ass to get in there. They are not too bad though. It took me about 2 hours to get them on. Another big issue you're gonna run into is your firewall down in there. Getting this downpipe in, you kind of have to twist it, but you're gonna have to bend your firewall flange just a little bit so it'll actually fit in there. If you're doing the same thing I'm doing with the mechanical fan pickups, you need to put in the narrower fan and electric fans on here if you want to make any of this work. You're gonna have to cut this guy down the middle to fit this in here, and with the reservoir tank, if you use that option, it does not have to be high up because it is not a pressurized tank. It can be down low, so I'm gonna plan on putting it somewhere over here. I don't know quite yet if I want to go against that and knock that flange off or bolt it up to right here. Still working on that. If you have this upper port, I'm gonna plug it. I don't know how I'm gonna plug it yet, but I'm gonna figure that out. We're pretty much gonna delete that. This will come off to the bottom side of that little tank and then just have a little drain off. Another thing I forgot to mention is if you are working with a 4L80E and you have this heat shield on the side, I had to cut a huge chunk off the side where the exhaust bracket mounts just because of this 3.5-inch pipe they run you with is just, it's too large for what you're working with in here, and it's a little goofy trying to get that all to mesh up in here. It's real tight, so. But that's, you can see where I bent that flange a little bit right there. It's just take a hammer and whack it a few times. So it's a little bit hard to tell, but they really make you squeeze this thing in here. There is not a whole lot of space. It is resting on my transmission mount, and by the time it gets to here, it's pretty close to that cross member for my carrier bearing. But we are in business. So it's Sunday on my day off, and it's daylight now, and you can see that we're hitting a point of no return. We're gonna drill a hole in this oil pan for our oil drain back, and make sure you're above this sensor. I'm about 1.5 inches above it, which should be perfect. Alright, got our hole drilled. Now time to tap it. Let's hope it works. Fingers crossed. So, the way I'm doing this is pretty janky. I'd recommend either taking your pan off or doing the front cover where they have a tap for your oil drain off the turbo just onto the front timing cover, because I've been having to do this with, you know, a wrench, and I used a stepper bit because I couldn't find a bit that was actually short enough in 9/16 to make that 3/8 MPT work. So yeah, I'll tell you what, this is down tapping the side of the oil pan. I'm using a wrench to turn the tap. I'm not redneck, I'm not redneck, I'm not redneck. Alright, got it tapped, and the new fitting is on for the oil drain. So now on to the intercooler mounting. What I did is I trimmed off tabs on the back, just a little bit of it, and took that bracket off, and then disconnect this. Take off that core support and cut it right at the end of those welds, and about to see how make this fit in here, you know. Okay, we've made a whole bunch of progress. We got the whole cold set from the turbo to the intercooler done. This is about how much I decided to take off. I guess you don't really need to take off anything below your indicator marker. I messed up by accidentally cutting that off. Don't do that. Just cut everything from here to there. And take your AC line and bend it back to where your spare battery would be. It's gonna bend the line, but you're gonna have to do that. Secondly, I also cut these little tabs off right here. They're like little plastic supports, just so I can push that down under, and so it'll sit underneath that, and I'll zip tie it up to there or something. Okay, so I figured what I'm gonna do with my power steering cooler. If you're also wondering this, carefully, I mean carefully, bend it straight out from that 90, and we're gonna tuck it right underneath the intercooler. I feel like that's the only thing we're gonna be able to make work to get that piping and fit right there. All right, cold side is completely done. I just gotta bolt up my blow off valve and route all my lines, make sure everything looks right, and that is pretty much it. Okay, so another issue you're gonna run into is finding a place to put your new overflow tank. What I did is I cut this flange off. It is for your other battery box. We don't need that anymore. Make that fit. So some more issues you're gonna run into is when you're doing the passenger side mass airflow sensor with your new downpipe, you are not going to be able to reach. So go on Amazon or whatnot, and you're gonna pick up yourself an O2 extension cable. You know, like 20-30 bucks, not a big deal. And you're gonna have to get that just to make it up to the downpipe spot, which is, well, you can't really see it, but it's just right above that, where that blanket starts. Now, another thing I did was I cut this corner out of my engine cover to accommodate for all my vacuum lines I'm running up into there. One thing I also forgot to bring up is your AC line running off here. When it goes underneath the manifold, you're gonna run into big issues with it hitting. So what you do is they talk about it. You take a wood block and you set it on top right before that fitting right down in there, and you just tap it lightly with a wood block and a hammer until you can fit this manifold on there with no issues. Another fun issue I ran into since this is that I have a hydro boost, not a vacuum booster. So what I did was there's this tab over here on the passenger side of the intake manifold, and you can snap it off. You can use that as your manifold pressure. So I ran it up over here and I tapped in this vacuum distribution block over here, and I ran the lines back up and over here. So they say use a pre-throttle body source, but a lot of people are saying that you can use your intake manifold. So I stuck with using the intake manifold just because of On3 saying like compressor surge and what, just all this other thing. So I went with that. So what you do is, let me hang this slide up. So oh, there we go. So let me get my pointer finger out. So you take your vacuum off, and if you're having the issues, I've never touched a turbo before in my life, so this is all new to me. So I have my gauge, my boost gauge, run into one of my lower ports as well. I'm running a manual boost controller, which also runs to another lower port. If you're having the same question I do, the bottom side, the straight down from your threading, that is what runs to your manifold pressure, and then that 90 out is what goes to your lower port. I'm gonna ask and figure out if you need to leave both top ports open or not. I don't know yet. And then you also run intake to your blow off valve. If this is wrong, please correct me, but this is about as simple as it gets for a turbo setup. You know, single turbo. I got 3 vacuum lines in total. One of them is literally just for, you know, reading what's going on here. Doing the spark plug wires was also kind of wonky. They labeled them, but they didn't seem right. That's just one of those things that's weird. So that's, let me get my light down in there. That's that sensor, that O2 sensor that runs down. It runs down the side right there. I'm gonna work it up a little bit nicer, and then it connects just right there. Simple as that. But if I'm really being honest, like, this was not difficult at all. It just took some time. I mean, I got the intercooler mounted up. It looks great in there. You know, it wasn't too much of a hassle to make fit. It kind of rests right on this battery. Oh well. One issue I'm gonna run into is my intake temperature sensors right there, but you know, your harness for your mass airflow sensors over there. So I might just not run intake temps. I know I should, but I just don't want to like splice in the wires, and I don't know yet with that. But I mean, I feel like almost any Joe Schmo could do this on your own. And this took me just a week, you know, after work, working on it for an hour or so, and then, you know, one full Sunday, just because that was the day I had off. And you know, here I am. It looks great. It's finished. All I have to do is injectors and fuel pump, and I'm ready. So I'll keep you guys updated. Now, I wish I got more video of this in the light, but I just couldn't pull it off. But you know, it's the way she goes. But this is the truck. You know, I'll get some better photos and videos in the light, but it's just a 2001 GMC 1500 HD. It's pretty much a 2500 6-liter 4L60, not a 60, a 4L80, because it's a little heavy duty. So we'll see how it goes. You know, I'm excited. It's a good looking truck. Got the switchbacks on there, color matched headlights. Now 76mm turbo. So yeah. So because we are, you know, we have a brand new turbo, I'm gonna locate our fuel pump and our ignition. I'm going to pull both of these relays just because we do not want, oh man, I can't get it. We don't want it to start up while we're cranking, you know. Oh man, I got so much anxiety right now. So now we're gonna cold crank for a considerable amount of time. And all we're doing is getting some oil pumped through the system. That's all we're doing. That's all we're doing is getting oil cranking. Oil pumping through that system. A little bit longer. Okay. That should be a good amount. Alright, now we're gonna reconnect those fuses. Alright, moment of truth. And she's alive! Hell yeah! Awesome. So some new discoveries. What I did was I disconnected my, it's hard to explain this, 1 second. So I chopped the wire that went over here for my intake manifold or mass airflow, and I cut the loom and I ran it over here, and then from there I tied it in to my intake air temperature sensor, and I left the 3 wires for the mass airflow sensor disconnected in there. Now I'm going to do a little bit more work, clean this up, get some loom for it, but make sure to you need intake air temperature, okay? You need it. But now everything's running good. It's idling great. If I run over here, going to a cab, sorry about the absolute mess, but our wideband is reading almost damn near perfect, which is just amazing. Alright, it's the next weekend and we are 100% finished. So I know I said I brought this up, but I did some final touches. So I brought this wire up and around through here, comes down, and I put some loom on it just to make it look a little prettier. I brought my manual boost controller out here a little bit, just zip tied it down. I'm still working on getting stuff harder down. Still got to figure out the top 2 ports, if I need to have one plugged or both unplugged for that manual boost controller. I don't know yet. So we got zip ties on every bit of thing. I put some Teflon on this because it was starting to leak just a tiny bit. Let's see, what else did I do? I put some heat wrap on my plugs just because I didn't like them being uncovered. And then I did a little bit of custom modifications to hold that wire up for the O2 sensor, and